Hey guys, Dov here, back with another unit highlight, and war wagons are good. Yes, they're actually good now, I promise. I will explain as we go along, but remember, if you like the series, give it a share, give it a like, much appreciated. Definitely helps the channel grow. And yeah, war wagons. So these guys are going to get straight to it. This is Hadris versus Samurai Warrior here. And Hadris has brought 3 war wagons. He's got Marcus Wolfheart, Hammer of Witches, plus 1 more cannon, a couple spearmen with shields, some Empire Knights, great swords, regular swordsmen, even Sigmar's sons, Sterling's Revenge, Free Company Militia. So quite the wild build. Speaking of wild builds, Samurai Warrior coming in with Archaon the Ever-Chosen, Chaos Marauders up front, second line of spawns, Warriors with great weapons, Mirror Guard, and some horsemen. Yeah, more horsemen in the flanks. Doggos going to be chasing the war wagons. So first I want to draw attention to Hadris' deployment here is awesome. I love his aggressiveness going up the front line with these Empire Knights. You can see how he's kind of asymmetric here. He's breaking up Samurai Warrior's attack as he moves in to be able to capitalize on these cannons, and draws in these Marauder Horsemen, gets a nice side shot. The Hounds also come in to charge the war wagons, which is a good idea, but then the Empire Knights are able to see them off, so some good kind of play back and forth. These Empire Knights are going to end up taking some damage, though, as they pull away. Nice Flock of Doom placement from Hadris there as well, but Samurai's pushing forward, keeping his forces together, doing a good job of not getting too spread out, and he will be able to recover a lot of those Hounds and stuff. One of them didn't even end up routing there. Sterling's Revenge just absolutely pouring fire, though. Archaon's also getting peppered by the cannons. You can see that the cannons both have attack orders directly on him. He did not get netted by Marcus just there, though, although the spawns did, and you can see all the meanwhile these war wagons are rolling back, popping shots. So what changed about war wagons? Previously they were literally useless at everything. Now they do a lot more missile damage, and I will say off the bat, this missile damage stat is a little bit misleading because they actually do a lot more shots per model than a regular chariot. You can see here there's what, 6 dudes standing in the back of this cart times 3 models, so you actually multiply this you know, times 18, right? Because there's 18 total dudes in a unit, 6 to a cart times 3. So as a result, the missile DPS is actually pretty decent now. It's still not on par with the missile infantry unit, but the fact that they have a ton of ammo, they're reasonably tanky, and their models don't die easily, that makes them gives them a huge advantage over other types of skirmishers. Like if Hadris had brought a standard gun line here, we would have got rolled over pretty quick. As it is right now, he's still kind of getting rolled over decently fast. You can see the spawn pushing forward here very aggressively, able to rout a lot of the Empire Knights. This cannon crew barely defended here, and yeah, Sigmar's son's holding up a decent amount of units there as well, but the caster got absolutely wrecked by Archaon earlier, and even though he has taken a lot of damage, Samurai Warrior's been able to mostly keep him alive here so far, trying to kite out that last Manticore summon there. And just generally not getting too flustered. Balance power slightly against him at this point, but Marcus is now stuck in a giant horde of spawn, which is not a good time for him. And yeah, Chaos Warriors also engaging, or Marauders even, on the Sterling's Revenge, which they'll trade very cost effectively there. Sterling's Revenge more than double the cost, basically the same melee stats, more or less, but you can see Archaon's doom of wagons approaching, and the cannonballs, of course. That's a big part of this, but the wagons acting as the mobile skirmish force with the cannons as a stationary skirmish force. You guys have seen me use it recently as well. If you watch some of my more recent Empire games, not the most recent one about great swords. Actually, there were war wagons in that one. Pretty much all my recent Empire games I've taken war wagons, I think. Maybe. But generally, I would say if you're having a hard time keeping your handgunners protected, you just find that they get wrecked by, you know, cavalry or chariots or whatever else coming in, and you just, this is a way basically to keep them protected, is to mount them on armored wagons, more or less. There is only 18 of them, yes, so they actually do less DPS than a unit like handgunners, but it's still very solid DPS with 25 armor piercing damage, essentially twice in 10 seconds. Yeah. 50 armor piercing damage over 10 seconds is quite a bit. It's essentially what most armor piercing chariot units do with their melee damage, right? So although war wagons are almost completely useless as chariots, like their best role as chariots is mostly just to block other things. They do have mass, but there's no charge bonus to speak of, really. 29 is pitiful for a chariot, 18 attack, 26 weapon strength. They are terrible in melee. And they're very slow as well, so they're hard to cycle charge with. They can be used to block, though, and they will continue firing even while in melee. Like, it looks like, yeah, watch as they kind of get engaged here. I don't know if you could see. I think the Mirror Guard end up fighting them in melee, or perhaps they already did. I might have missed it, but regardless, they will continue fighting while they're in melee, and if they were to charge in this engagement here, you could see that. And here we go. Now you can kind of see it in action. Yeah, you see, like, even though these carts are actually fighting, the horses are doing their melee attack animations, they're still firing down into the crowd below. And that's a big deal. They're going to continue to deal that missile damage, even if they are engaged in melee. And that really sets them apart, again, from those infantry missile units, especially the more expensive ones like handgunners. They can get away, they don't take nearly as much damage. And as missile units die, their killing power goes down, right? Because you lose that ammunition on that model. The other units don't get that ammo distributed out to them, right? So if a model dies, you lose that model's stopping power. Since these models can stay healthy, big deal. They can also act as a nice anchor, mobile anchor, you see, and that's part of the blocking detachment sort of role, is using them in tandem with shock cavalry to kind of force your opponent to blob up around the slow war wagons and then countercharging with cavalry. It can be an effective strategy, as we saw here, but decently quick one from Hadriz and Samurai Warrior for the war wagons today, but they definitely did a lot. I mean, nothing here really got Chevron specifically. I think probably the RORs got some pretty good work done. I wish we could see the amount of HP damage done by each unit, but anyway. Archaon definitely getting wrecked by the combination of wagons and cannons there, and of course Marcus also doing quite a bit. Marcus ended up getting wrecked by Spawn, and it sort of just came down to the fact that the war wagons were able to stay alive with a bit of the cavalry there, and the lords didn't get completely killed, the heroes and lords, I guess, hero and lord. But, yeah, the war wagons were able to kind of carry it there at the end, and all their models still intact as well is kind of the whole point, right? Tanky, mobile missile unit is not something that you hear very often, and, like I said, they're useless as chariots. But they are the best shooting chariot in the game. They're the best chariot at shooting, if you can call them a chariot, which, you know, is arguable in the first place. I'll talk about the other variants like the Mortar and the Hellblaster another time. But for now, just the regular war wagons. You will see these guys pretty frequently in multiplayer now. 130 range is very solid for a 360 shooting unit. Again, the DPS is a little bit misleading, but if we even compare to something like Scourge Runners, the war wagons actually deal more missile damage if you were to math it out, right? Because these guys... I believe there's only the one guy, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Shooting from the back, and this is his missile attack, whereas these guys have 6 per, and they all have this shooting attack. So they are obviously better at shooting, which they need to be, because literally everything else is worse. And how about that ammo on war wagons too? 240 ammo. It looks insane, but then you remember that you divide that by 6, because, again, there are 6 crew members, so... yeah, they still, though, have a very good amount of ammo and can just continue firing throughout the course of a game. And yeah, basically mobile mounted handgunners. I find, for me, it's really hard to defend stationary infantry skirmishers, especially against factions like, I don't know, say Beastmen that are very fast, or Vampire Counts that have a lot of summons. Skaven potentially have both, plus their own artillery to pound you with, so it can be tough to protect something like, you know, handgunners. Huntsmen have the benefit of stock. They don't necessarily deal armor-piercing damage, right? So if you really want the AP, your choices are to, go for some armor sundering. Maybe you just cheap out and go super wide on crossbows, because they have okay AP. But again, that's all infantry skirmishers. And for armor-piercing missile cav, Outriders are a little bit tricky to use because they only fire forward. They're not as easy to use, I'll say, as war wagons. You kind of have to set them up in position. And I mean, they're still 84 speed is obviously a lot faster than war wagons, but they're still slower than most other like fast cavalry. Most of fast attack units and other skirmish cav are in the 90 speed range, so they kind of get outclassed there anyway. You might as well just say, okay, you know what, I don't want to lose models. These guys are very squishy. The Outriders are, 30 armor, terrible melee stats, so you might as well take the armor and HP per model of the war wagons so you don't lose that stopping power. So relatively quick one today in comparison to a couple of my recent videos, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, share with a friend, and I'll see you next time.